Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This bigger show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Somewhere Between. So a lot of stuff went down in this episode that we're going to have to break down. Obviously, the first thing being like the whole Debray situation at the beginning. Not only him going after Mimi almost immediately after being released, which kind of threw me off guard. I thought he was going to lay low-key and stuff like that, try and go back his job, pretend to be normal and everything. It's like, no, he immediately went to try and kill Mimi. Luckily, Laura was there to kind of shock him and keep him from doing it. But he's like, you know what? I'm going to talk. You don't have to worry about it. But I'm only going to talk to one person, and that being Nico. I can only assume that's because of the whole Ruby situation. The reason why he'd only want to talk to her. I mean, talk to him. And why not, because why not Laura? But I guess Laura pointed the gun in his face and everything. And I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting that he would. I guess because Nico was the most inquisitive about everything, trying to figure out what's the connection to Ruby, and I guess on some level, like, Debray really cared for Ruby, so that's what this is all about. But before Debray could say anything, he ends up getting shot and killed by a drive-by motorcyclist. The cops kind of rule it as kind of a revenge thing because it's like the bike was registered to the brother who popped up in the brother of one of the victims last episode. He's the guy that was like, nope, this doesn't belong to my sister, so. It's like, okay, he was, it's like, oh, so Nico and Laura kind of have this mentality, oh, it's over. And, you have, Laura trying to, it's like, it's over, my daughter's safe, and now I can go back to my life. You even have Nico kind of being like that to a certain extent. It doesn't really seem like he has much of a life to go back to, essentially, but you see him kind of, drink a lot later on in that, later on at that point and kind of go home and pass out. I assume, just the stress of just doing what they did, fighting and changing fate, and on top of that, this means him and Laura can't hang out anymore. So, you see it even more throughout the episode. It's just like when he's trying to unbuckle her seatbelt and they're super close. You're like, the sparks are there. You can't deny it. Just I don't know, everything they've been through, this crazy wild ride, and it's just 10 minutes it's over. We as the audience, you automatically know, yeah, there's no way it's over. There's too many unanswered things at this point anyway. So, but, like I said, they try, Laura's trying to enjoy it. It's like, oh, okay, my daughter's safe. Don't worry, Tom, I'm back. I've been acting a little crazy, but don't worry, it's okay now. But then everything changes when new information comes out, because it's like, there's no way it could have been the brother. Nico finds out because the brother was at a wedding at the time and there's photos and everything, so someone stole a bike. And then Laura figured out it wasn't also there's more to this, because she remembers, she looks at Debray's jacket being pulled off, and then she sees his shirt and remembers that there was a hit and run victim. It's like, oh, here's a teacher. I completely missed that. I didn't even that didn't stick in my brain at all. It's one of those things, if you look in retrospect at the first episode, I'm sure there's so much that if you really pay attention, I'm sure it's one of those things, you go back to the first episode, you're like, there were all these clues all over the place. They sprinkled in and you just don't realize the context or the importance of them. Certain things, obviously, you caught, last episode. Was that last episode? The whole Cerberus head this situation. It's I called attention to that just because, me and mythology. That's the only reason why I took notes of it. But nevertheless, Debray was a teacher that was involved in the hit and run. It's like, wait a minute, he died 5 days before Serena was killed, so he can't be the one after her. He can't be the one that killed her, so it's not over. So it's like, okay, so is this some kind of partner situation? But then they start thinking about it. They look into the video cameras and they're tracking the person. They end up getting a steal of the person's arm, trying to discern who it is by a tattoo. But then it's like, no, something's not. Wait, what's going on? All the footage starts getting deleted. So immediately it goes, okay, so maybe there's a cop involved in this, which goes back to episode 2, where the first. The victim that we kind of got to, they attempted to say the first time, but she ended up getting killed anyway. She was stabbed by a cop. So which borrowed the question of was he, how did he circle back around to confuse her, or was it someone else I don't know. Because we're all under the assumption that the person that attacked Laura was Debray, but what if it wasn't Debray? What if it was it's something I kind of threw out before, what if it's actually another killer who, stabbed Debray in the same place to make it look like it's him, if anything, maybe it was punishment and it just happened to be in the same spot, or maybe the killer did that specifically just so things would kind of look more like he's 100% in this by himself, that, because Laura stabbed him, so maybe that was kind of to throw them off. But because it's how did he get away and then circle back around in a different a different outfit so quickly? Because it was moments later, so it's how did he do that? So that kind of made me think there was someone else behind this. So because it looks like Debray was just a pawn in all this, which I'm not surprised. He did say like they stop looking or something, and it's like, Nico's like, what are you talking about? Like, it doesn't make any sense, like what he's saying. So he's like, they took something from me, something like that. So I'm like, did they take someone that was important to him and use them as leverage to be like, hey, do this stuff for us? But then going back to it, like his motive in the episode is revealed, like, oh, there's this note kind of admitting why he did what he did. Turns out I was right. It's like, oh, unfit mothers. And he even kind of says it to Mimi at the beginning of the episode, like, your son would be happy, you're not, so it is that context of an unfit mother. So maybe it's something in his head. Like, I don't know, like, it does seem like he was a pawn in this whole situation, especially like the shooter in the episode. I'm pretty sure that person's just a hired gun. They're not the actual one, the mastermind behind all this. Whoever the mastermind is, they're connected to Tom, because Tom's the one that sent the picture of those rings and stuff. And that person was like, we'll get back to you. So it's like, it's not just one person, it's a group of people, like maybe some organization. Like, I still think that, I mean, obviously still keeping up the cop angle, not less the cop that killed that first victim in the episode, like in the show. And I mean, I think she's actually victim number 4 or 5, whatever the case may be. I'm thinking it might turn out that the cop and the motorcyclist are the same person, but nevertheless, just still a hired gun. But it just seemed like there is some like high-powered group to kind of be able to give someone like access to do what they did, especially like deleting the video footage like that, being able to get to Laura so quickly, because that brings it to Laura too. It's like, what does this has to have something to do with the police as well as Serena, because like Serena was taken, and immediately my brain goes like back to what I thought before, like Tom is in the middle of this, like whether it's because of something he had or something he did, like that's the reason why Serena died, and maybe that's why he kind of kept distance from Laura in that the original timeline of maybe that's why like that 3-month period, like eventually he was like, oh yeah, I gotta move her stuff, it's too hard. Like obviously you would think like, oh no, that's just his grieving process, but maybe it's because he knows the truth that what happened to her is because of him. Because I'm still kind of under the impression like her being kidnapped was an accident, like her dying was an accident. So there might be more to it, maybe it was on purpose, but I think it was an accident. Like they probably just called to make it seem like, oh, it was Debray that was keeping it up to be like the same killer, but as we know, like Debray in the original timeline had died, and the person who way before the call about Serena was leaked in, and it's just like he used the excuse of like, oh, Laura's looking to the story, but it's like, no, it has to be Tom. Specifically went to Laura, maybe contacted Tom at the same time too, I don't know, but nevertheless. The big problem for Laura, though, in this episode is the fact is that she ended up telling Tom about like all this, her and Nico's theories, and even mentioning the missing jewelry, which we know where it is now, because Tom was going to put it in his desk. Maybe in the original timeline he did, because maybe during the original timeline, I mean, because granted, even amongst that original timeline, we never saw everything. We saw cuts, bits, and pieces, so there's no telling how things played out in the original timeline. Anyway, like for example, like Serena finding that scarf. Maybe she did in the original timeline, maybe not. Maybe just this time through, they made sure to kind of show us like, hey, Tom's keeping evidence, kind of establishing like some shady stuff's up with Tom. But that made him decide to put the ring somewhere else. So maybe that changed something in its own way too, because Serena found, like originally, maybe in the original timeline, he hid the jewelry there because it was never an issue. Like it's just because Laura and Nico are changing things, so he ended up having to hide it in Serena's like time capsule in the wall, except for like 2032 or whatever, to be open, so it's like no one's going to mess with it. No one would think to mess with it. So, and he's telling like Laura's like, oh yeah, my people are looking into this. It's like, no, they're not. You're saying that, but Laura is onto him by the end of the episode, or to some degree, because like she saw a biker leave the apartment, their place, and she chases after him, but they drive away. And then like she goes talk to Tom about it, because like Serena said, yeah, the person dropped off an envelope to Dad. And then like she's like, okay, what was that about? He's like, you're just being crazy. It's okay. You're a little frantic after everything that happened, so it's understandable. It's like, okay, and once again, he keeps bringing up did you ever see what the shooter looked like? And she's like, no, it just saw the body cam. And it's like, you're asking that for multiple reasons. Obviously, you're acting concerned for your wife, but it's along the lines of like, you're acting concerned because she saw his face. That would lead to some trouble for you and probably everyone you're involved with, because you're neck deep in this. But Laura's onto him for like lying, because it's like, yeah, I got this package. Like it's basically some case files, and like I said, Serena just told her that he had gotten an envelope. So it's like, why are you lying? So, and we see him shredding evidence at the end of the episode. So it's like, whatever Tom is mixed up in is slowly unraveling. On multiple fronts, too, because Grace ended up talking to Nico about this whole situation of like, yeah, she saw the scarf and everything, but Nico's like, you stay away from the Price family, you know, but I doubt Grace is going to. She might still try and get in contact with Laura, but then Laura's going to be like, you know, she's like, didn't you get the letter I sent? Like, what letter? And it's like all the evidence and stuff like that, because that's still something that, now that I'm thinking about it in retrospect, that might be the envelope. Because she sent evidence in that envelope. I didn't even think about that till now. He probably had someone, whoever the biker was, like whoever, like he's kind of a mediary between the two, like the middleman. So maybe he sent it to his bosses and the bosses sent it back. It's like, but why would you show up in the same bike helmet and stuff like that? Maybe it is unrelated. Maybe it is a different person. But for them to pull away just like that without really talking to her, so it's like, suspicious. But it's like, maybe that's what it was. He had to verify some stuff, like whether there was any like leaked information, whether there was any truth to what Grace had gathered, any leeway or loopholes, and like some stuff that they might have missed initially with the whole Suzanne situation. Like whether, like I said, because it's still what that has to do with this whole situation. Because obviously, like Danny's whole situation with the whole Suzanne's murder, like that plays a role in this, and we just don't know how. Like whether it's someone power up, covering up, went to Tom to cover up something, and now it's just Tom's caught in this perpetual situation of covering up for someone else. But then it's like, what's this whole point of like needing to talk? Maybe it's him trying to renegotiate things. Maybe that's what eventually led to Serena getting taken and killed, because it's like, oh, you're trying to hold evidence against us, you know, oh, you're trying to play fast and loose. It's like, we don't play like that, Tom. You try to screw us, we screw you over type of thing. But it's like, that might be like Grace's evidence that she wanted Laura to see, like, oh, here's the stuff about like, oh, kind of like, you know, you should look at, or get your husband to look at it. So maybe after getting it verified or whatever, or showing it to those people, it got destroyed now. So it's definitely going to be interesting going forward. I mean, especially because of that element of like, now Laura knows there's an envelope involved, and if Grace gets to her first about the whole envelope situation. I mean, especially because like Laura might bring this up to Nico. And then there's also that other storyline about Mara, like apparently she's dating a mystery guy, and he's kind of pushing for her to have an abortion or something like that, which is like, you know, Laura's trying to help her out with that whole situation, and like, cause she's like worried about it, cause she's like, oh, you know, about this child that could be and stuff, you know, so it's like, like, I guess that has to deal with the whole Serena situation. Like, she got caught up in all of that. Like, the fact that she got that call at just that moment, like Serena got kidnapped, and, you know, Barry was kind of distracted too. So it's like, maybe, I don't know, like, it seems like it might be someone that's powerful or already married, and maybe I'm immediately going like, is that like an affair type of situation? Maybe it's not, but it's just like, it look like, you know, what I brought it up in the first episode. It's one of those situations where every little thing might not seem like it's important, but everything is important. Everything is connected in some shape or form. Also, the fact is that Nico gave Ruby the sweater he had gotten from Mimi, so it's like, I don't know. That seems like that's going to turn into something too. Like I said, when you're dealing with time travel, every little thing, when it comes to changing time, every little thing matters, whether you realize it at the time or not. At certain details that just at the time, like you know, when you try to focus on, you still don't recognize it until like the show's like, blam, we showed you this, you just didn't put the two and two together. So also, another interesting thing that popped up in this episode too was basically Tom telling Nico to kind of back away, because it's like, yo, so can I do something for you and your family? And it's just like, yeah, you know, basically like, in this stuff with you running around town with my wife. And he's like, well, we both know you always need someone you can count on. Almost, I guess, almost throwing it in his face, because Nico's there for, I guess, because Nico's also throwing it in his face, because it's like, he wasn't there for Laura when she tried to kill herself. Like, so I think that might be me reading too much into it. But when she like tried to kill herself, like, I think that's another element to it as well. Like, you know, you don't, like, that's even more so why Nico's there for, because he knows what Serena's death does to her, like what it pushed her to do. So, but obviously it's also because she's not like, because it's a mutual thing of like, hey, he's helping save her daughter, and it's also about saving his brother. So, like I said, some very interesting developments, and I'm interested to see where they take us in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.